Welcome into Hot Reads, our weekly look at the NFL. It's time to talk playoffs with Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman. My name is Tom Vandervoort. And Troy, I know this is the time of year we all wait for as NFL fans. We got 4 games this week. I want you to take us through each one of those, and let's start with the first game that we got this weekend. 2 rookie quarterbacks in Houston as the Bengals visit the Houston Texans. Tell me what Andy Dalton and TJ Yates should be expecting in this game, and what do you expect from these guys?
It's always a little bit different when you go into that first playoff game. Whether you're a rookie or whether you're a veteran. Of course, I don't know what it's like necessarily to go in to the playoffs as a rookie, but I do know that you go through the regular season and you get acclimated with kind of the speed of the game and the way things are done. But there's just a heightened urgency that comes with playing in the postseason because everybody recognizes there are no excuses. If you lose, you go home. And everyone then knows kind of what's at stake and what's in front of them. And that's one of the things that I always enjoyed and appreciated about the postseason. And for these guys, certainly Andy Dalton has had a really nice rookie season. TJ Yates has come in and had to fill in then for Matt Schaub. But both of these players are going to recognize what playoff football is all about, and trying to prepare yourself for that and for the intensity of the game is not possible. You just have to get out there and experience it for yourself.
Talk to me a little bit about the matchup here. These teams played about a month ago with the Texans coming out on top. It was a very tight game, a couple close calls, questionable calls maybe at the end of the game. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, it was a tight ball game. What I see is a Houston team that has finished the season certainly struggling here over the last few weeks. Disappointed, I'm sure, but at the same time, having clinched their division. Cincinnati, on the other hand, has had a nice season, as we talked about, with a rookie quarterback, throughout the year. I think that's positive. But if you look at who they have played and who they've beaten, they really have not beaten a good football team, in my opinion, this season. And then having to play on the road, I see this as a game that Houston wins. Defense has been awfully good this year under Wade Phillips, and it's going to be a hard place for Cincinnati to go in and win.
It's going to be tough for them to stop the running attack of Houston, I presume. They didn't have much success with Ray Rice last weekend.
Yeah, I just think that Houston, they can beat you a lot of different ways. I've said it before. It's again disappointing that Matt Schaub went down. It was a team that some would argue was the best team in the AFC at the time. They've got a little bit of a different look right now, but still a team to be reckoned with, especially, they're at home. They get a chance to finally get into the playoffs and not only do that, but host a playoff game. And with the running game, as you talk about, that's a formidable group that Cincinnati's going to have to contend with.
All right, let's talk about the Saints and the Lions, because this game on Saturday looks like it could very well be a shootout. We know how prolific the Saints are on offense. 57% on third down, which just astounds me. That's quite a stat. Talk to me about the matchup problems that Calvin Johnson for the Lions and Jimmy Graham for the Saints present for the other teams. If you're those teams and you want to get these guys their touches, how do you as a quarterback and an offensive team do that?
Well, both of these teams have done a good job of it, because when you go into games, I think that really it speaks to those players, Calvin Johnson and then Jimmy Graham, because, like during the days when I was playing and you've got a Jerry Rice or a Michael Irvin, and everyone knows going into the game that when the ball is thrown, those are going to be the receivers that you're looking to get the ball to, and yet each year they come out and put up pretty good numbers. And so that becomes a real challenge, and I think it's at those times that you realize whether or not these players are really go-to guys. And Jimmy Graham has proven that this year. Calvin Johnson has been proven that for the last several years. And so there are ways to get the ball into the receiver's hands. I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of the bubble screens, the quick passes, the shorter routes. That's one way to do it, because both of these players can threaten you down the field, that the underneath stuff typically does come open. But even if you talk about trying to double a receiver, there are still points in games where you can't always do that. And so you're going to give them single coverage at times, and it's up to the quarterback and up to these offenses to take advantage of those chances, when they present themselves. And as I said, they've done that throughout the year. I think, looking at this particular game, the Saints have been awfully good, of course, all season long. Drew Brees has been fantastic. But looking at the last few games, they're really on a roll offensively and putting up big numbers, averaging, 470 yards a game and scoring points. And playing at the Dome is a great place for them. They're a hard team to beat no matter where you're playing them, but they're especially difficult there at home. Detroit, as you talked about, they've been explosive offensively. Matthew Stafford, throws for over 5,000 yards, only the 5th time that's happened. But the thing that has concerned me is the thing that we thought was going to be a strength coming into the season is Detroit defensively. And they have got to be more dominant, especially up front, if they're going to have any kind of chance in this ball game. I mean, looking back at last week's game against the Green Bay Packers and Matt Flynn comes in, there's other players that are not playing in that game, and Matt Flynn throws for a Green Bay record 480-some yards. And so to me, that defense has got to be concerned. They can't feel real good going into this game. And if they're not a bigger factor than they have been in the games that I've seen this year, they're not going to win. They're not going to have a chance to win the game.
Hard to pick against the Saints. Is that who you like in the game, the New Orleans Saints?
It is. I think that I could make an argument right now that the Saints are the best team in the NFC. And, equally I could with the Packers as well. But I think those two teams, are really the cream of the crop of the NFC, even though San Francisco is seated above New Orleans.
All right, Troy, thanks a bunch. That's our look at Saturday's games. We'll be back to talk about Sunday's playoff games with Troy Aikman in just a bit.